Hey friends, welcome to Such a Videos. My name is Joan, and today I am going to be trying to be the most productive university student I could be. And just in time for exam season, because I have 3 exams and 1 project due in the same week. I was showing how I stay productive as a student myself, which includes strategies to stay productive, the resources and apps that I use, study methods as well for school. However, before we can do all of that, I think the biggest thing that I'm going to be quote-unquote trying as a way to be productive is I'm going to be building my first ever standing desk. So for context, this is my desk right now, which I know looks absolutely disgusting. And I've got this bad boy who's been sitting here for the last few days because I haven't had time to build him. But today is that day. Not gonna lie, I haven't built anything further than just your typical IKEA furniture. So I'm not really sure how this is gonna go. Whoa! Dude, after I build this, I'm gonna have so much cardboard to use for future DIYs. Oh yeah. As you can see, I'm obviously being very productive right now. Now to actually see if it will stand. Oh my gosh. No way. Oh my gosh, I'm standing! Dude, I actually have a standing desk now. Like, this is crazy. I feel like standing desks is like what those professional work-at-home coders have or gamers have. It's also pretty spacious, which is something I definitely need in a desk. So I'm gonna actually be putting all of my stuff, including my PC and everything, on here and just kind of getting a new workplace look. I think changing up where you work and what everything looks like is like a really nice way to motivate yourself to be productive. Because when your whole area looks nice and new and clean, you're more likely to actually want to spend time there. It's actually going at a really like decent speed too. Just kidding guys, I don't want to sit, I want to use my legs. Oh, wow, that's so cool. Okay, now the next step is to place this in place of this. Since it's also midterm season 2, I can actually try studying and seeing if the standing is gonna do me any good. Again, we're trying to achieve peak productiveness. I have a standing desk now, woo! Okay, I think the next few steps is just making sure that my whole workspace is fully decorated and clean. And then we can finally talk about the apps and study methods that I want to try and do. Oh, hi there. I don't know if I mentioned, but this desk is actually from Anthrodesk. The assembly of the table went so much easier than expected. The fact that I didn't need extra tools to assemble the table was so nice because that was something I was worried about, and honestly it didn't take that long. The tabletop feels very sturdy, but it doesn't look too bulky, and like the ranges of where it can sit and stand also seem just so nice. The legs also feel very sturdy, and it doesn't feel like the table would give if there was like a lot of weight on it. Some of the things I like about the desk too is definitely the memory function for the different modes, but also just the speed that it goes at and how quiet it is. And I think it really is just elevating my setup so well. I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like standing and studying and seeing if that really does up my productivity. I'm very excited and happy to add this desk to my new setup. Alright, so I've kind of cleaned up my whole area. I'm trying to keep it as minimalistic as I can without too many distractions. I did also get this new monitor stand, so I'm able to put any little weird trinkets inside here. Even for my phone, which I'm using now to film, I will also put away when I start my work as a way to try and stay productive and focused. Put any messages or social media on Do Not Disturb, but most of the time that's actually not enough for me, so I'll also move my phone to like a whole different room in my house, or at least just far enough that it's out of reach, and that way I don't actually have the urge to check my phone because I'm too lazy to stand up and go get it. So building my new standing desk and just taking care of my workspace is part of my first strategy for trying to be a productive uni student, and that is by cleaning up and glowing up my physical workspace, because with a better, nicer space to work in, you're more motivated to actually stay there and get some work done. For my second strategy for trying to be productive is also in the similar realm of more physical changes, and that is by changing and customizing my own wallpapers. So this right here is actually a dynamic wallpaper that I made myself. Since I use my MacBook quite a bit when I'm on the go and at school, it doesn't seem like a really big change, but after changing my wallpaper, I've generally just been more interested in even using my Mac. Basically how a dynamic wallpaper works, according to the time and day, it will change colors or change to the picture that you set it as for that specific time. And yet that is not the pièce de résistance, because I also customized my folder icons. We have Mr. Normal Duck, Study Duck, Gluttony Duck, Angry Duck, and Sleepy Duck. All right, next up, I want to talk about the apps and resources that I use to stay as productive as can be. All right, so the first app I use to up my productivity is Notion. Now, Notion, when I first started off, and even now as a user, I find it a little bit intimidating just because of the pure potential it has to do so many cool things. I personally mainly use it for specific school-related tasks such as quizzes, exams, any assignments due. That's going on to an assignment tracker I have on Notion. I also use it to keep track of my projects for YouTube as well as job applications. I can filter out my tasks depending on what kind of thing I label them as. For example, I can put labels on such as if it's a quiz or if it's an assignment. I can assign it to the class it's supposed to be in, and also of course set due dates. Now I actually don't use Notion as my main thing for everything because I also use Todoist and Google Calendar. Todoist is my holy grail daily to-do list app. So I use it to plan out my days, what things I need to get done, whether it's school related or otherwise. And it's a lot easier than having like a physical to-do list on some piece of paper because you have to kind of bring that everywhere and you can't really update it and edit it as easily as on an app. And I specifically like Todoist because of the, again, organization. I'm able to label each task depending on what project they fall under. So I usually label them as classes, or if it's related to like club related things. You can put the task to whatever day you want it to really easily. And they have functions where you can say like, oh, I want to move it to tomorrow or postpone it to the next time it's supposed to happen. And I guess on that note, you can also schedule recurring tasks. I just think the user interface is really friendly and easy to learn. And since it is an app, I can use it across different devices. So my phone, iPad, laptop. And to up the productivity even more, I kind of have a strategy as to how I order my to-do lists. Usually what I like to do is to schedule smaller or shorter tasks first, but only just like one or two for the beginning of the day. This is because when I get those done and I can check it off the list, it just gives me a bit more of a boost of confidence. And so after those few small tasks, I can move on to the longer ones or the more brain energy sucking ones. And then afterwards, to ensure that I use up my max productivity for that middle part, I just put a bunch of small other tasks for the end of the day that also might not be as time pressing, so I can move them to the next day if I don't finish everything. Also, another tip to be productive with to-do lists is to break up larger tasks into smaller subtasks. This just makes everything seem a bit more manageable, and it also helps you kind of plan out step by step what you need to get done to achieve whatever it is your goal is. And for me, at least, it helps me not feel like giving up because every small thing is like a little step closer in the right direction. And at this point, I feel like checking off something on my to-do list just makes me really happy. It just helps keep me in a productive mood. Now for Google Calendar, I mainly use to put in important dates or events and also my class schedule for school. This just helps me keep track of really important dates such as midterms or exams. as well as if there's a specific club event I have. So time sensitive, larger scale events that are more like a one-time thing, it goes into my Google Calendar. And for school, my main note-taking app is GoodNotes. I haven't actually tried a lot of note-taking apps, but I don't have any plans on switching because so far it just works for me. Actually, later in this video, I'll talk a bit more about how I like to take notes to maximize efficiency and productivity, but I'm gonna finish talking about my productive resources and apps and get to that later. Okay, for this next one, I'm so sad I didn't know that this existed until like a few months ago. It's basically a web browser called mynoise.net where it has literally so many different noise simulating programs. You can basically recreate a whole environment around you just by sounds. So if you like listening to background noise, pretending you're in a cafe, or heck, pretending you're in a garden or a crowd, they've designed so many different scenarios where you can actually tailor it to fit whatever sound you like to listen to when you study. I feel like there's so many like, cafe noise simulators out there, or like a YouTube video where you can just pop on and it's like noise, but this app, I swear, does it so well in the sense that you can customize things. You can actually control these specific sounds in the environment based on a slider, and they also have presettings for white noise, brown noise, and pink noise. And I personally really like loud cafe environments alongside rain noises to help me keep focused, but I hate cafe noises where you can actually hear what the people are saying because that just kind of gets you distracted, but all the noises and everything is like fake talk, so you can't actually understand what people are saying. It's purely just noise to help you focus. Best tool to use when I'm studying and trying to grind for hours on end. I'll definitely be using that within the next few weeks. My next up is actually my alarm app, which is Alarmy. You might be wondering why I'm even talking about an alarm app, but let me tell you, I genuinely cannot get up in the mornings. It's gotten to the point where I will definitely sleep through an alarm that will continually ring on end in my ear right next to me for like an hour. I don't wake up. I'm genuinely in such a deep sleep. So for this app, what you can do is you can set it so that when you have to turn off your alarm, you have to do certain challenges. They also have a bunch of sounds, and you can also customize how loud you want it. And so this is kind of the only app I found recently that is an actual alarm that will wake me up. And not only that, but it keeps me awake because I have to solve however many math problems I give myself to actually turn the alarm off. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily a productive app, but if I can't wake up, I can't be productive. So my next app is my journaling app, which I use Dailyo for. And I don't actually use it for journaling per se, but more so as a mood tracker. And it actually has a lot of functions because you not only can put your mood, but you can also put what activities you did each day, and obviously treat it as a journaling app. And I'm just using it as a nice way to keep track of how my mood changes and how I feel, and kind of be able to reflect on that, which is one of my New Year's resolutions this year. My next two apps are actually related to my YouTube work. So I use IBIS Paint X for making my thumbnails or any graphics. It's my main drawing app, so when I was making the wallpapers I showed earlier and any thumbnails for YouTube videos, this is the app that I use. It's free, it's got lots of tools. And then for my YouTube editing, I use DaVinci Resolve. Also free and a much better alternative to stuff like iMovie because you can actually get real good quality video editing done. Another thing I've been trying to do to stay productive is to avoid caffeine and go with tea and matcha. This is my newly bought hojicha. So really like Genmaicha tea. And of course the good old classic matcha. We're gonna make a matcha latte. I feel like this is kind of overlooked, I guess, when it comes to being productive, but I generally feel like making a drink, not only does it kind of motivate you to kind of sit there, sip, kind of the aesthetic while you study. With matcha and coffee, obviously there's caffeine, which helps you be more productive. But I'm trying to avoid coffee specifically right now because I feel like the high and the kick is just too much for me. So that's why I like to go with matcha and tea. A lot lighter on the caffeine. I also bought my own so that I don't have to spend like $6, $7 every cafe that I go to try and study. Oh my gosh. When I drink something while I study, it just kind of calms me. Kind of an actual productive effect in terms of caffeine. Also kind of placebo. Got a nice layer of foam. Oh yeah, that looks so beautiful. We got our wonderful matcha. Taste test. Oh, so good. Matcha latte buff. Now we can be productive. Okay, so I've shown all my resources, all my handy dandy apps, but let's talk a bit about my studying methods. Okay, to be fair, I cannot guarantee that this is like the most productive thing that you can do, just what works for me, and it helps me feel productive. I kind of want to talk about my process of taking notes in class, before class, after class, and just pre-preparing for my exams. And I want to split it into 3 parts. First one being pre-lecture preparations. So some courses will have assigned readings or reading quizzes for you to finish before the lecture. Doing them seriously is actually a lot better because it's a lot easier to process the information when your prof is talking and presenting in class. Usually if there are assigned pre-readings, I will usually take pre-reading notes for those. And then I move on to during lecture prep or notes. My main strategy, I believe, is just annotating slides. Usually university profs will just post their slides for the class like a few hours before or just right before class. I'll just download it onto my GoodNotes app and just annotate it straight on there. I used to try and take notes at the same time as lecture, but I realized that was super time consuming. I was more focused on trying to get information down on paper versus listening to my prof and seeing what was on the slides. So to avoid all of that messy, chaotic multitasking, I just have slides out, listen to prof. Anything prof says that helps understand what's on the slide, I will write it down. Then we move into post-lecture notes. So there's kind of 2 strategies I go about this. One is that if the class has pre-assigned reading, so again, I've done pre-reading notes, what I've tried to do is integrate my lecture notes into those pre-reading notes. Another strategy I do is to actually keep things separate. This is for classes that maybe the lecture is just a little bit different than the pre-readings, or just don't have pre-readings at all. I'll just take organized notes based on my annotated lecture slide notes. So for this, I like to integrate some of the images that are on the slides, write in what's on the slides in my own words, and I'll format it in a nicer way that's in one package versus a bunch of different slide decks. And so those are the main 3 kind of stages I have for my studying and note-taking. Talking a bit more about my note style taking specifically, something I find really productive and what helps me is color coding. I color code my notes based on the information that I'm writing down. You're able to easily look at a page, see where the important information is just based on the color, without having to read the words. For example, vocabulary, I will write in red. Obviously, red is like a really bright color, so it's a lot of attention and you know that's important. For green, I'll do like examples or names of people. Blue is just for general information, and black I'll use for headings or diagrams just because it's easier to see. Speaking of diagrams, I actually like to use diagrams a lot in my notes as well. For example, I am in a physiology course right now. So this is what I have right here. Again, fully drawn out, labeled, color-coded. Another one over here as well. Looks very complicated, but I swear the color coding helps actually organize all the information and makes it clear. I think it helps my thinking process, but teach their own. And then last thing, this is something I've generally tried to implement to be a bit more productive, and I feel like it is kind of working. And that is to focus more on the learning objectives university profs will give as guidelines on what to study and take notes on and to focus on. I hated learning objectives when I was in 1st and 2nd year. They felt so broad and they weren't really answers to the questions that you could find, like not like a practice exam, for example, so they felt really useless. A lot of the times they're very open-ended, I feel like on purpose. Describe how this element influences this system. Like, it just felt really hard to kind of study around because it was so open. But what I've realized that exams really do just test what are on the learning objectives, and the profs will tell you that. And most of the time it is because they want you to know all the information that falls under that question. So what I like to do for studying is that after I've taken notes and everything, I like to take note of where in my notes does it answer the learning objective questions. And when I'm studying for exams, I will ask myself the learning objective questions, see if I can answer it. And if I can't, that means I don't know the content and I have to go back and review it. So that is my newfound way of trying to be productive with studying. So I hope you guys enjoyed my productive tips and tricks video. I still have a long ways to go from becoming the most productive university student I can be, but with my new desk setup and hopefully keeping up my healthy study habits, it's just one step closer. Shout out to all the other students out there on their academic grind. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye!